So this video actually was shown at the Institute in 2019. And so we know what happened that school year. By March of 2020, we were in the pandemic. And so the purpose of showing that video is to show you how many people have changed and how the children have changed from that Institute Day in 2019 until now. So the pandemic, I know people get tired of hearing about the pandemic, but the pandemic actually did make a lot of, forced us to make a lot of changes, and it affected our children and our adults significantly. And actually, I didn't anticipate how much it would affect our adults. And so this year, we're trying our best to get more organized, pull ourselves together so that we can move forward in a new way. In 2017, we went to the Harvard for the Learning Environments for the Future conference, and we decided on what our design principles would be going forward. Anytime we designed a new space, it would be community. So the space would take in consideration the needs of the community, and we would support our community. History, we would always take in consideration the history of Kankakee and not forget the history of Kankakee, because we do have a rich history. Hope, and that's for the children. We want our students to walk into the spaces and have hope for their future and wonder. We want our students to be excited in the spaces that we design and wonder what they're going to do that day as a result of these amazing spaces. If you look around, this is community, history, hope, and wonder. This is our band room. So now, one of the next things that we talked about is coming out of this global pandemic. What are the things that we need to work on to support our children? Adult practices. We want to make sure that we are presenting grade level assignments in front of our students. In 2019, which is the same time that the pandemic started, there was a survey or a research done on our assignments, and it was found that 30% of the assignments from kindergarten through 12th were at grade level. And so that's really important, because if you don't teach the students second grade content, they can't pass a second grade test. So as of last year, we were up to almost 80% of the assignments were at grade level, but that took some time from 2019 until last year to get there. We also emphasize the importance, and again, this was discussed at the beginning of the year, the importance of timely, meaningful feedback, grading. That not only are you grading the assignments, that you're actually talking to the students about the quality of the assignments and what they can do better to improve the learning. We also talked about how important it is to communicate to parents and families. In terms of student practices, and we are struggling with adult and student practices, but what we need help with it from the community is that students are engaged or attending school. And the reason why we say or is because we still have a remote blended option, which is about 265 out of the 5,000 students. And what we want our students that are remote or blended to be engaged. We want our students that are traditional to attend. And then we also want them to complete their work, which honestly, coming out of the pandemic has been a struggle, but it was also a struggle before going into the pandemic. Our students need to do their work on a consistent basis, and we struggled before the pandemic, and we still struggle with that. And then we want accountability for our students and our staff. We want to continue to monitor grade level assignments, Teachers must provide instruction and feedback through grades, and then we want to go into deep engagement. Not only are they giving the assignments, but we're actually having conversations and going deeper into the learning process.
We're responsible for helping children learn, grow, and become successful people. For helping every child enter adulthood ready to be critical thinkers, effective communicators, team players, and independent problem solvers, and for making sure they're academically prepared for each new challenge, both in the classroom and in daily life. Because with the right knowledge and skills, they'll be ready for college and careers. But no two children are exactly the same. Each learner has unique strengths, interests, personality traits, and learning needs. Some may be really good at building relationships or helping others. Others may excel at math or science, or they may have a creative passion that drives them, and each may have a different set of challenges that impact their lives, both inside and outside of school. Some may not be academically, socially, or physically ready when they start kindergarten. Other students may spend after-school hours taking care of siblings while their parents work second and third jobs. Some kids may struggle when taking written tests, but can easily explain the content to another student. And others may quickly understand lessons in one subject area, but may need a little extra help to fully master another. Educators have always tried to do their best to support the needs of every child, but most traditional time-based school systems move students through lessons and grade levels, even if they only understand 60% of the material. Year after year, this creates more and more gaps in knowledge, and real-life challenges, unique learning needs, and different levels of individual support mean some students start out behind others, making it harder for them to reach academic standards. A first grader, like me, may come home with a good grade in math on a report card, but because the grade was based on an average, her family can't see where she may still need help. While she did really well with basic addition, her family can't see that Mia is still not able to quickly subtract numbers 0 through 10. Mia will need this skill in second grade, when she'll be expected to subtract numbers 0 through 20 automatically. By third grade, Mia will have an even greater gap to overcome, when she needs to be able to subtract 3 to 4-digit numbers, up to 1,000. In a traditional school system, where Mia can advance without completely mastering foundational skills, Mia will most likely continue to struggle with subtraction, a key skill not only for the next grade level, but for making change at her summer lemonade stand. A personalized learning system, particularly competency education, flips the traditional school model on its head and puts each student at the center. Students, parents, and educators have a shared understanding of the knowledge and skills each child is expected to learn.
We are doing target reaction each. In our classroom, we have a big bulletin board seeing what trimester we're in and what learning targets we have to complete. And once we complete them, we move on to the next. And sometimes two of them will go right into each other, so we can all do at once.
Most of my kids know pretty much where they stand. Ask them, what are you working on in literacy? They can say, oh, I'm doing syllables right now, or I don't use my letters anymore because I know them already.
In a competency-based environment, every student has a common set of clear learning targets and knows what they need to do to succeed. How they get there is personalized to their needs and interests, and they can make choices for how they demonstrate what they've learned. Every student is challenged to grow even beyond the standards, and every child succeeds.
So whenever I need a goal, like past writing my letters, I put it up there. So I have ciphers and a lot of stuff up there.
It's just so much fun to see the kid get excited about their learning. And one kid might be excited because they finally learned the letter M. Whereas, another kid who's excited because they wrote 3 sentences. And they can be excited at the same time in the same classroom, and that's just so neat to see. Because no one's waiting. But yet nobody also feels bad that they're behind.
Educators and students are empowered to understand individual interests and learning needs, and work together to meet learning goals. This relationship with teachers ensures each student has a voice, and they get the support they need to fully understand and demonstrate each concept before they move on to the next, creating a stronger foundation for each level of learning. And they do more than just memorize concepts for a test. They understand why they're learning each concept and how to use it to solve problems, think critically, and work with others in real-world situations.
We can lift them to the heights that they need to ensure their success and to ensure that they can reach goals that they set for themselves, dreams that they aspire to achieve. But to do that, we understand that we have to help them develop the background knowledge, skill set, dispositions that will guarantee that dream becomes reality. And so what personalized learning does is just that. It ensures that every child receives the structures, the support, the knowledge, the intervention, and the opportunities to apply the content and knowledge that we're providing to them in ways that are meaningful to them.
With competency education, students like Neil will be prepared for that lemonade stand, to balance their own budget, succeed in college, and even run their own business someday. Educators have the autonomy, structure, and support they need to develop creative ways to meet students where they are. They can challenge students who want to move through content quickly and provide personalized supports for those who need a little extra time. Educators, students, and parents work together to continuously improve, share lessons learned, and develop new ways to achieve goals. The result? Through competency education, every student is challenged and every child succeeds.
So with competency-based education, what it does is it looks at education in the fourth industrial age. The traditional education was developed in the first industrial age. We've been through the second, the third, and now we're in the fourth industrial age. So seat time is not a factor. So the old Carnegie unit or credit or the old semester is irrelevant, even though it's hard to completely get rid of it because of the way the school structure is designed. Seat time is not a factor in learning. Location is not a factor in learning. Students own their own grades and their learning. Teachers are facilitators of the learning. Learning can happen anywhere, anytime, and students are not penalized for what they don't know. So students can grow through content, and actually in kindergarten through third, they've been doing it for years. It's called standard-based grading or standards-based. Mastery or competency is the exact same thing. So students can go through the content at their own pace. Some students will go through quickly, and if they go through quickly, they can do interns or go to KCC. We're able to participate in the CEO program that was recently developed because we have a number of seniors that have finished a lot of their competencies, and so they have time to do internships, to go to KCC, to do other things to fill up their time as a senior, rather than trying to figure out like how we're going to give them enough courses that they no longer need. So this is from the State Board of Education, and I know you can't really see it that well. These are the priorities coming out of the pandemic. The first one is enrollment, retention, and re-engagement. We're working really hard on that, and we need the community's help because we still have students that are not fully engaged. Individualized student fact-based, that's competency-based education. We're individualizing the information on their academics, their behaviors, and progress monitoring. The third priority is to reimagine the school calendar. We have summer learning, so many of our students are almost like on a 12-month schedule, even though it's not structured the way schools structured in other places where you have a couple of weeks off for maybe the fall and a couple of weeks off. You're really on a trimester. We haven't done that, but what we've done is we have summer learning so the students can continue their learning in the summer. It's not like summer school. It's really extending the summer learning, the learning from the fall. Out of classroom learning experiences, tutoring, school, summer camps, we put that in place. Connect community organization, our community partnerships, we have about 65 community partners that are working alongside the school district to help enhance what we offer our students and our families and our teachers. We have number 6, academic and behavioral counseling resources. We put a lot of supports in for our students and our teachers in terms of behavioral health. Mental wellness and trauma-informed cultural responsive schools. Number 8, digital strategic priorities. Number 9, quality of learning through altered classroom structures, educator professional development, and digital tools. Number 10, increased flexibility of secondary, post-secondary environment to accommodate for other responsibilities. CBE accommodates for students that are working or students that have children or the students have experienced a trauma and they've been unable to engage for a couple of weeks while they're going through the trauma. Oops, did I push this on accident? Yes. So I'll look at this one. So where are we at? Number 11, flexibility of support students with structured engagement, enhanced communication in transition periods. Number 12 is design an integrated education workforce strategy. So we have put structures in place even before I had realized that this was a state guide to renewal, to the road to renewal. We had put many of these things in place already. It also says, number 8, I didn't go over that in more detail, evaluate and improve hybrid remote learning models to develop long-term digital strategic priorities. So every single thing that the state wanted us to do to come out of the pandemic, we've actually done. Is it perfect? No. Do we have things that we need to improve on? Absolutely. But we've done everything that they think that we need to do in terms of a priority of coming out of the pandemic. We just need to enhance it and improve it, and we really need to communicate what it really is, because there's a lot of misinformation out there that does not align with what's really happening. What it is a fact is students need to do their work, and they're not. Students need to attend more often, and we're working on that. Teachers need to grade, and teachers need to engage with the students. They can't just push the assignments out and sit behind a desk. And so the adult practices and the student practices is what we as a district need to work on for the next 3 to 5 years. And so I always like this last quote: education is not the filling of a pail, but the lighting of a fire. We have to help our students love to learn and learn in their own way, in their own time. So now I'll turn it over to Marquise Roberson to start the panel discussion.
Cool. Thank you, Dr. Waters. Let's give her a hand, because Dr. Waters is just amazing. And such a visionary for this district. Can we have the panelists come up? You know who you are. Come up, have a seat. I'm going to get you get your introduction going and all that while my computer gets set up so we can have it on the screens as well. Thanks, sir. So I'll just start before the presentation goes up. But my name is Marquise Roberson Bester, and I'm a consultant. I'm with MBRX Consulting. I'm the principal consultant. But I've spent 15 years of my life doing education work, from being a teacher in the classroom for multiple years to working with outside organizations like the YMCA and helping school districts figure out, how do we increase graduation rates? How do we help schools increase college acceptance rates within our building? Across the country, not only here in Illinois, but in Atlanta, in the DeKalb County, in one of the blackest counties in the country, in Prince George's County, in Spokane County, in Seattle Public Schools, working a little bit in Milwaukee Public Schools too, and Chicago Public Schools as well. But really taking the time out of my career to understand what education looks like from all different angles. The only angle that I don't have is from the district leadership kind of side and being a superintendent, but I really rely on those who are there to help inform my view on that. And in speaking on that, I've worked here in Kankakee for 5+ years as well, through equal opportunity schools, a lot with Dr. Walters and the teachers in the Kankakee High School building. I remember my first year being here and working with Mr. Harris from the middle school. He came up and was the principal that year, and me and him worked really, really hard to get students engaged within the AP or IB courses. And that year we accomplished a tremendous feat within the school in adding over 100+ students within AP or IB classes that never thought they could do it before. And not only adding those students, but working with the teachers and the staff members and coming up with a plan on how we're going to make that something that's sustainable, how we're going to change some of our practices, and how we're going to engage those students in a way that's going to help them feel successful and have a vision of something that's broader, a bigger vision of anything that they could possibly see themselves doing with a little start. And we kind of talk about it as ripples to waves at the end of the day. How can we start this ripple going in the water that's going to turn into this tsunami of a wave that's going to change not only themselves, their families, and their communities, but possibly the world, because they saw something different that they could possibly do. And using that little thing as that catalyst for it. So that's been my history of my work here. Now I'm here doing a little bit of consulting as we're starting to think about, as we're starting to think about where do we go next. That's my mug on there. Where we go next. Right now we're in a very pivotal kind of situation, right? We're here today in this high school, this new high school, with all these new things. We got competency-based learning. We got open learning spaces where students can kind of mold the way they learn and do it in a different way than the traditional way. But it's Black History Month. And in about an hour, we're going to have students over there doing amazing showcases and really showing love to the Black history, right? I hope you all are able to go over there and check it out as well as be here. But when I think about Black history, and when I talk to students all the time, one of the first things that they always mention is Martin Luther King, right? Martin Luther King is the first person that comes up. My brother, Martin Luther King, comes up. And the thing that I think about when I think about Martin Luther King is that he talked about bringing everybody together. Ultimately, it's probably the thing that got him killed at the end of the day, right? He talked about bringing all communities together under this expectation that we can all, the only way that we're going to change the world around us is if we work together. Hispanics, Hispanic and Latinx communities, Black communities, Asian communities, white communities, we all need each other at the end of the day. And without saying it at that time, Dr. King was working on equity work, right? He didn't explicitly say it, but he always talked about the details of what that was. He was an early DEI person at a time in a country where it wasn't looked upon as something that we should be doing. And that's what we're here to talk about today, what the equity within this district is going to continue to look like. And that brings me to point number 2 in the pivotalness of the time that we're in, is our great superintendent, Dr. Walters, is going to be leaving soon.
Yay.
I'm not going to cheer for that. It brings a tear to my eye when I talk to her about it and what she's going to do next, but just the profound impact that she's had here in this district and really being a champion for somebody who came through this district, that came back and wanted to see more for it, right? And made more of it here. But when she's gone, who's going to take up that mantle to move it along?
Yeah.
How are we as a community going to be able to ensure that her legacy doesn't die when she leaves out? We need all of us in here, like Dr. King said. We need to come together and make sure that we're making great decisions for who the next superintendent is. But we are the superintendent's boss. We hold the superintendent accountable for what they do. So regardless of who is in leadership, we are the people who are going to be making the decisions on what comes next and what we are going to hold high as important. So today, what we're going to kind of do is talk about what that could possibly look like from the perspectives of some of our great panel members here. But we're going to make this a dialogue today. I know we didn't ate and we're feeling good and we're kind of full and our eyes are getting a little bit drowsy. But there's going to be opportunities for you guys to participate as well. We really want to hear from you because this is just the start of this conversation. We wanted to ease into what that could possibly look like and do a little freedom dreaming, right? Of what the future of Kankakee could possibly look like as we move forward. So when we talk about equity, we always want to set some really good guidelines so we can have really great conversation and we don't battle each other, because equity can be something that's kind of crunchy, right? It can be something that's, everybody has a different opinion on what that looks like or how that feels. So the first thing I have up there is that be open to discomfort. There may be varying viewpoints on what equity looks like or what we should do next or how we should approach something. But my perspective on it is that different viewpoints pushes us to a greater outcome at the end of the day. So let's be sure to hear each other and be uncomfortable with what somebody may say that may not, hit your soul the right way. But let's try and hear them. Okay? Can we agree to that? Can I get some thumbs up just to get us moving? Get that food digesting, right? Stay engaged. You are here today, right now, in this room because you're supposed to be here today. So while you're here, let's make it worth it. Not just a meal. Let's hear your voice because it's needed. I know we're going to be doing a little bit recording. I'm going to ask you guys to get on your phones and put some input in there too. But since you're here, let's be here and let's fully be here today and let's participate. And I like to think about like your bubble of comfort, taking that one step out of that bubble and doing that next thing that you thought you weren't going to do today and coming here and do that. So if you didn't think you were going to say anything today, simply participating in the poll might be your thing. But if you came here with some combative thoughts and you said, I'm going to say at least one thing, I'll ask you to say two, okay? And let's hear everybody's voice in this room. We got some really great people here. Focus on your personal experience. Your experience is yours. And that's all you know 100%. So let's talk to that. Let's not talk to third or fourth person experience. Let's talk to what you know and what you've been through, okay? Just be present. Let's be in this room. Let's not, stray to our phones and get on a technology. Taking pictures is fine. That's cool. You may want to do that. But let's be here. Let's be right now. Be open to your thoughts and feelings of others that are in this room. Again, we may not always agree, but I think we can find some connections to what we're going to be talking about here today. Make this a brave space. I like to say brave because it may not be safe, completely safe, right? But we can be brave enough to be participants here today and do something really amazing and get some thoughts out there that may not have been present before. And then last but not least is just expect and accept non-closure. We're not going to get to the solution and solve all the world's problems here today, but I guarantee you that we can start. And that's what's most important, is taking that first step when we are doing this type of work. We can always get caught with our wheels spinning in the mud, right, and going nowhere and just being frustrated and upset and not getting anywhere. But taking that first step today, I think, is really, really important. Can we all agree to those things today? Okay, I'm going to hold you guys all accountable, all right? So the method of the madness today is up there, and I'm just going to summarize it a bit. But we're going to have dialogue. We're going to go back and forth here today with some of the questions. The panelists have their questions that we're going to ask. I'm going to ask you guys to pull out your phones and go to www.menti.com. That's where some of the poll questions are going to be, and the slide is going to come up and it's going to show you the code that you put in for those polling questions, okay? That's going to be your way to participate if you don't want to stand up and talk. It'll be a way for you to get your voice out about some of the questions, not all of them. There's going to be 6 questions tonight that we're going to ask the panelists as well. They're pretty deep diving questions that are going to ask us to dig deep and think about what's going on here in this community. But we're also going to combine that with some national data around entering high-level courses, kind of the things that Dr. Walters was talking about. What's some of that national data set when we're thinking about students and children in this building today and in the future? Sound good? Okay. So our panelists, let's get to it. Our first panelist, as you all know, is the esteemed Dr. Walters. Do you want to, well, everybody already know you. Okay, so we don't need to do your introduction, right? Our second panelist here is Dr. Willie Davis. Would you like to say a couple of words about yourself, sir?
Well, a lot of the people here, I'm sure, know me. I was formerly one of the people in this particular district, and spent a lot of time in Kankakee before retiring and going up north. So from listening to Dr. Walters a few minutes ago, it really stimulated me, because I've been thinking about, I'm retired also, and I thought that was the end for me. I was done. But then I heard her talking, and believe it or not, I'm getting excited about education again.
Yeah.
No, I think it's going to be I would say this to the board and to the community. It does sound like it's going to be a tough job to replace her, because she seemed to have touched on something that I think is probably going to be the future. Mm-hmm. And now I'm old schooler myself, but I'm one of those people that's open to new ideas. she's talking about some things that I think that I saw, I guess, when I started the Montessori program here in Kankakee. All those years ago, we were trying to work with kids at wherever they were, and we didn't pigeonhole them. We allowed them to grow. And some of those parents are right here in this room that we had, and now I'm hearing them say the same thing at a different level. And I'm really excited about this whole notion of competency-based education. I think it's great. I think it's probably the wave of the future. We're going to have to come around in Kankakee to that point, whether we like it or not. I think we're going to have to come around to that particular way of thinking. It's not that there's anything wrong with the old way, but they've been enhanced now, and we're going to have to deal with that. So I'll talk forever, so I'm going to quit right there.
Thank you, sir. And I think you bring up a really great point, too, about the competency-based learning aspect of it all. And I would encourage you all to research and look up Carnegie-based learning, grading, right? There's a really great history behind it, and it was instituted for a reason. As Dr. Walters alluded to, that was it was a really long time ago. 3 revolutions ago, right? And when it first came to light, it was here for a reason because of the type of economy that we were in and the type of students that we were trying to build at that time, right? And it was named after a billionaire, one of the richest people in American history, right? It's past due for us to think about how do we do things differently now as well, right? And I think competency-based grading is one of those ways. I mean, Dr. Walters was talking about it, really a lot about mastery. And not only having that one shot at doing something great, right? Because I could have had a bad day. I could have got in trouble at home last night. I had to go to bed early, and man, I got spanking or a whooping. I used to get whoopings, you know. And then my next day at school was horrible, and I couldn't show up the way that I wanted to. But competency-based learning that I know, it allows for that one shot not to be that one shot. It allows for you to take multiple shots like we talk about in sports, right? You can miss a free throw, but your average can still be good. You can still be Steph Curry, 96, 97%. You know, and that's what it allows for our students who need those extra chances to be able to show up as they really are and really let their brilliance shine. So thank you for bringing that up, Dr. Davis. Our next panelist is Matt Hedding-Hess. I hope I said that right.
Yes.
Would you like to say a couple of words about yourself?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Matt Hedding-Hess. I'm a licensed professional counselor in the community, very involved in the mental health community here. I'm also an LGBTQ activist and organizer in the community, and a foster and adoptive parent in the community. My son will be starting school in the Kankakee School District in the next couple of years. So just invested in that way. But this year I actually started through the Community Partnerships program, doing therapy in just about all of the Kankakee schools this year. So I'm just kind of new into the district doing that, but learning a lot about what's going on in the district and what's going on with the young people here. So.
Thank you, sir. And super important because, especially at this time, Dr. Walters and I talked about this as well, is that in the district right now, coming out of the pandemic, more effects than we could have ever thought about, right? Not only from our students, but from our adults in the building as well. So counseling and being able to be there for our staff members who are supposed to be here to show up for our young ones every day, really, really important. So it's good to be able to have this perspective on what equity looks like at the end of the day as well. Our next panelist, my Greek brother, Arthur Lax. We're not on the same side, but we're on the same side, you know. Would you like to say a couple words about yourself?
I'd like to thank Barb Wells for inviting me to come out and participate. Back in 1989, I came to this community, and in 1990, I started substitute teaching a lot. And that went on for 7 years while I was building my business. So I came to know a lot of the teachers. I know a lot of students who've come through and gone on. And I'm very pleased to say that my children went through this system and have done wonderfully well. And to that end, I look forward to letting some of the programs that I'm hearing about try to become the norm. I know that I've been to a couple school board meetings, and I know there's some bickering going on, but the only person that suffers then is the student.
Amen.
So I would like for us adults to do a little bit more practice at cooperating with each other. I don't know the competency-based program that you're talking about. I don't know a lot about it. I'm trying to figure it out. But I also know that repetition is not a way to learn all the time. So we may have to try something different in order to get the student engaged, because doing something over, doing times in terms of a timetable or math or something, it works for someone, but someone else gets bored with that. So looking forward to some new programs.
Thank you.
Thank
sir.
you.
Yes, thank you. And then our last panelist here is Hernan Cortez. Hope I said that up correct as well.
Cortez.
Hernan Cortez.
Hello, everyone. I'm LPC 2, just like Matt, and I'm working at every school, well, almost every school right now. As you can see, Hispanic. I'm still learning about the school system. I come from private practice, which is very different. And yeah, I'm just trying to contribute however I can.
Thank you, sir. It's good to have a different perspective. Private practice is needed in public as well. So it's good that, as you guys can see, we have a very diverse kind of panel here. We're going to provide some very great perspectives on what we're going to be talking about. So I'm excited to hear what they have to say. How about you guys? Okay. So let me kind of frame this up a little bit, and then I'm going to stop talking because I don't like hearing my voice. Something that we're going to kind of frame this up with is some educational statistics, all right? And you see some up there right now on both the kind of panels there. But kind of the header of it is 50% of recent high school graduates report gaps in preparation for life after high school. And we have some stats there. And I know, myself being an AP student coming out of high school, I was in Milwaukee Public Schools. Even though I took those classes, my first 2 years of college were like horrible. I still wasn't as prepared as I possibly could be, and I went to one of the top high schools in Milwaukee Public Schools. So there's always those gaps there that we could always be doing a little bit better, and really leaning into what our students are telling us when they go off to college, or if they don't go off to college, about the different things that could possibly help them do more. The higher standards that we could possibly have for students, and to push them to think and to feel supported when they're trying to take on new challenges. Those are the things that helps us succeed in life at a deeper level. One of the quotes that I like to refer back to is one by Adam Grant, and it talks about how the leaders of the next generation are going to be those ones that are able to take one more look, one more time, one more chance at something new, and not hold so tight to those traditions or thoughts that you have internally, right? Just because you have this gut instinct about something, or this is the way that we always used to do it, maybe we need to look at a different option because we're dealing with different people, especially our baby humans of children who are growing every day and show up every day a little bit different, every year a little bit different. How can we start doing something different for them that hasn't been done before? Our second point there is just the majority of high school graduates indicate that expectations they faced in high school didn't match expectations when they left, whether that was attaining a degree or going into the workforce. I know we always have this concept when I talk to educators and counselors and leaders within education, they talk about not setting our children up for failure and really putting this big hug around them. And that hug, while it's great for that time now, it usually doesn't help them out in the long run either, right? It works for now, but not being challenged, not being pushed, not being asked to do more than they could see, it doesn't help them struggle through and figure out how to deal with adversity when they need it. It teaches them to run away because this isn't easy. It doesn't feel good. So I'm going to go to a place that does feel good. Another one of our little ones here, right? She's like, I want to get on this microphone. I got something to say. Same thing, just another stat on that. And then recent high school graduates also broadly agree on which proposals would encourage high school students to work harder. And what they kind of talk about is opportunities of real world learning. Being able to connect what I'm doing now to tomorrow. Why am I even doing this? Why do I need calculus today? Why do I need to know these angles? Why do I need to learn subtraction? Whatever it may be, providing that connection from the today to the tomorrow is really, really important for youth. And I think that's something that goes back with competency-based learning, the kind of the model that is being set up here is making those strong connections between that. Communicate early in high school about the courses needed for college. So not leaving it as this mystery until the end of school in the junior year or your senior year, and now I got to rush to figure out what that is. Being prepared early and often. And oftentimes when we look at this stat, it's about being prepared as early as elementary school and starting to have those really great conversations about that. Given opportunities to take challenging courses like the AP or IB courses within school, which should be open to all students, but oftentimes we find that there's barriers institutionally that are personal to certain schools that they set up that aren't really requirements, but they set them up to weed out students that they don't want in those classes. But they were put here for everybody, right? And you pay for your students to be able to take those classes or your children to take those classes, but they're kept out because of superficial reasons. Provide more help for those who need extra tutoring, so having those extra resources within the building, and have an assessment late in high school so students can find out what they need to know for college or what they don't know. So just some thoughts as we're about to talk about equity within our educational system here and kind of some of the things that we know, kind of some of the things that we're grappling with. Thinking of those stats, thinking of that data that came from the Achieve survey, the most recent Achieve survey that's done across the nation, how do these sit with you? And how are these going to connect to some of the things that we're going to talk about today? Cool? All right, so let's hop into the first question and get this started. The first question that we have for the panel is, we're going to start out pretty simple. What does equity in education or the community mean to you? And we got a community code up there, is 4766-6600, and you can type in what it means to you as well. We're going to show it up on the board after everyone locks it in. We're going to let the panelists start off first, and we're going to start closest to me, and we're going to rotate it next time, and let Dr. Walters speak to it first.
So I know this will sound cliche, but equity means that every student gets what they need. And I think what we struggle with is what one student needs, it could be different from another student, and it's not what we think they need. Like, we need to take the time to really get to know the students in order to determine what they need. I think oftentimes in education, the adults decide, well, the kids need to do this and the kids need to do that, without getting to know the students, their strengths and weaknesses, and making a decision that's centered around the student instead of centered around what we think they should have. So to me, equity is about the student being at the center and the student getting what they need for their life after high school. So even in preschool, you should be thinking about what the student will do as they matriculate through the school system, and that they get what they need to support them to be successful citizens, whatever it looks like for that student, and not what we think it should look like.
Thank you. What I heard was every student gets what they need. It shouldn't be based solely in what us as adults and our perception of what's going on is, but it should be something that's shared. Summed up?
Yep.
Well, to me, equity, as I see it, is kind of what the definition implies: fairness, being impartial. The problem is that all of us have been watching TV lately, and down in Florida, they're looking at the whole question about. I heard you talking about AP classes. It's like they want to control. You can't. I think it's a mistake when you try to control students' learning. They have the ability to go beyond. They should be allowed to do that. Their potential can only be felt if they're allowed to go that far. But when you put a stop on it and suggest that that's all that you're going to learn and we're going to cut it off there, it's just not how it works. See, I think, this being a Black History Month, it struck me as interesting because we, some of us went through segregated schools, and it was controlled. Learning was controlled, and I'm one of those people that went through that kind of a situation. That's when I see this now. I don't know where I could have gone had I been allowed to go to my fullest potential. So I think that equity in a school district like 111 is open as far as you can go. And there are no stops on it. Learning has no stops.
Yeah, and what I'm hearing you saying is essentially equity is a right.
All right.
Because at
Yeah.
one point it was not a right.
Yeah, it's not a privilege anymore. It should be a right. That's what it says, that education is a right. We all have that right. Yet there are some people who want to make it a privilege. I think that's just fundamentally wrong. And here we are in a situation now with Black history where we're trying to relive something. And I think we need to relive it. Yes, we need to know our history, but we need to also move forward. And hopefully we will do that. That's why I'm impressed. What I see here is that it seems like District 111 at this point, and I hate to see you leave too, under circumstance, but it's, whomever it is that takes over here as superintendent can't put a stop on it. That would be fundamentally wrong. And I doubt if the community would even allow it. It would be a big fight, I'm sure. So I have this tendency to talk too much when I get there, so I'll be quiet and let this
Thanks, sir. Next panelist.
To echo what they would say, I think equity takes fairness a step further. The image of the people standing next to the fence, one person can see over the fence, the person next to them needs a box to see over the fence. Equity to me means that everybody gets what they need to be able to see over the fence. And so I'm just kind of reminded of all the resources and interventions and things that are being brought into this community and this school district. And we're really hoping that something sticks with these young people to get them engaged and wanting to come to school and looking forward to each day, those sort of things. So just kind of echoing all the words that we saw in the opening presentation too. So that's kind of what equity means to me.
Thank you. And audience, remember you can go onto meti.com, enter the code, and you can put your thoughts in as well. And I really like what you're talking about, the image, right, of the fence and looking in at the game. I used to use that a lot. And there's a couple of different versions of it where there's no more fence and there's no more boxes and they can just see freely into the game. But then I was challenged to look at that picture a little bit closer. Why are those kids standing at the edge of the game, one, and there's people who are sitting in the rafters watching the game freely? Why does that have to be the reality that we live in or that we accept? So how can we change that where there's no fence and no students or children standing outside of the game and they can actually play and be in these places that everybody else can be in as well? So let's wrap our heads around that too, and let's be very cognizant around the things that we are given and the things that we see. And I think about it as the food that we eat informs the body that we have. So really paying a little bit closer attention to the equity things that we bring and that we adopt, and not just have them as Bible, right, at the end of the day, and really interrogating it a little bit more. Thank you, sir. Next panelist.
Yeah.
Equity in education. Well, my thought is equity allows everybody to get to the level that they want. There's some people who are not going to go all the way to PhD. Some of them will just go through the high school graduation. But at least they get what they want to get. Strong enough to have individuals encouraging them to go to the level that they want to get. Now, if they can, in the process, change their objective and become interested in going higher, then there are some ways that they can take the AP courses and things like that to move a little higher. Ultimately, they get what they want. Hopefully, they get more than what they need so they can be better citizens in our community. So equity means, I'm not comparing it from person to person, I'm comparing it to the person's skills. Let them get to the level that they need to get to.
Yes, sir. It's an opportunity for growth, to go where you want to go, to help you make better decisions, right? For where you want to be. Thank you, sir. Last panelist.
In my opinion, I don't think we can get rid of all the fences because we are all different and come from different places. Like language, I encounter kids that they don't speak a word of English, and they just need to be given the tools so they can catch up. So that's a fence I don't know how to, I don't think can be taken because we are a multicultural community.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the perspective, and I think that's really important perspective to bring to the table, right? And I'll add my 2 cents to it, right? And we're going to get some audience 2 cents to it as well. Is that I think the thing to recognize with equity too is that it's not a today or tomorrow thing. It's not a next week, next month, next year thing. Equity is a journey. You know, that started a long, long time ago, probably with the civil rights movement or a little bit before that, with integration into educational systems, right? But it's something that you truly go along this journey on, and I'm a firm believer that it probably never stops because we're in a revolving, evolving world where things are always going to be changing, so there's going to consistently be work that we're going to have to do, and there's never not going to be work because the one thing that I learned in the educational system or in strategy building is that as you solve one problem, another problem pops up. 2 or 3 of them pops up. And you got to solve for those too because your problem created another problem for another group that's going to feel a certain way about a certain thing too, right? So we always have to be diligent and we always have to have this will within us to keep going because the work is going to never stop. It's going to be Herculean efforts along the way, right? To see one thing. Integration was one of them for as good as bad as it was based on your opinion. But then what's that next thing? We can't be tired. And our next generation can't be settled in on that was a great thing that we did either, right? So we just have to keep going. It's a journey, a long one. So we got some comments up on our Metameter there. Would anyone, we got opportunity for 2 people to talk about something that they heard from one of our panelists or one of their perspectives on it. Would anybody like to give a thought? Yes, ma'am.
It's something Dr. Walter said when she said the teacher getting to know the student. I think that's the biggest problem because now teachers can't just be teachers. It's almost like they have to come in with a sense of being able to look into the soul of a child to see that something is wrong. Because when their soul is wounded, it's so hard to learn. So how are you going to, or what's the best way? Because somebody might say, well, I just enjoy teaching. I don't want to do all that other stuff. So what do you do with that teacher? Because it's like now teaching requires more.
So I'll quickly say that I think the teacher shortage is really around the challenges of teaching. And with the way that we treat education and the way that we attack education, I really think that people don't understand how challenging it is to have 28 little bodies or big bodies in front of you and be responsible for their life, because education, in my opinion, is life. Now, I think the principal has to set the tone for how the teachers relate with students. I mean, I know many people think that I have bad relationship with students, but there's 300 students. 300 teachers. I don't really have relationships with teachers. But the key to actually supporting and helping teachers develop those relationships is actually the leader in the building. Like, that's something that the leader has to set the culture that we don't just teach, we teach children. And children is the center of what we do, not the instruction or the content. The students are the center, not the English class, not the science class. I love books. I love Lord of the Flies, but the center of it is the student that's reading Lord of the Flies, not reading the Lord of the Flies. So I think that that's something that has to really happen at the building level, and the principals have to set a culture that our students come first, not the content.
Thank you for that. Do we got one more from the crowd? All right, cool. Get my exercise, my steps in.
coming from the Robert Taylor homes in Chicago,
I have 20 minutes
and
here.
also realizing a mother that graduated summa cum laude to get us out of what I call economic disparity, I've come up with the phrase that says, equity in education without economic parity is disparity. That means you have to fund education equally, whether it's in poverty or whether it's in the most prominent neighborhoods. It's similar to having a dream, but not the ability to wake up to make that dream come true.
Can you say that saying one more time?
Oh, you talking about the one I made up? Equity in education, it says, without, equity in education without economic parity is disparity.
Okay, a word. A word, some genius in this crowd. I'm saying. Okay, thank you all for that. We're going to move on to the second question. Again, these are just starts to get us to start to think, right, about how we're going to address what's coming up next. So our next question is, and we're going to start down on the end here, is what are you most proud to have seen change that has made Kankakee schools and our community a better place? Whether you've been here for a little bit of time, or you've been here for a long bit of time, what's something you've seen that you're just proud to have seen change within the schools or the community? Start down on the end.
Me?
Or not?
I'm pretty new here at the school district. I used to work in private practice in Joliet, so I've been just a couple of months here. I'm not sure I'm best qualified to give my opinion about education or the changes, but the most important change I see since I'm here is that I'm here.
That's a big change.
And I don't mean it in an arrogant way. It's just diversity and really bringing resources to people who need them.
And
I
then
mean, I never heard before of a therapist working for the school district for Hispanic people. I don't know. I'm pretty new. I don't know. Maybe before there was, but I don't know.
It's first.
I definitely never seen it here. And I think that's a big change that you are here. 'Cause when I started here, there wasn't any therapist, one, in the building that I remember.
We have school social workers, but with the community partnership grant funded by the Illinois State Board of Education and Rebecca Parks, we had an opportunity to be very creative and bring therapists in.
Yeah. And then I don't remember any Hispanic Latinx representation in the building at all either. So I believe that's a great change. Thanks for raising it. And you being here is just amazing too. So thank you. Mr. Art?
Not the past 7 years, but since I've been here, I've had my children come through the district, and I can remember some changes that occurred probably 9, 10 years ago, or maybe longer, where we had some programs where the students had an opportunity to be in, for lack of a better word, I think it was called title, so I think it was advanced placement, and allowed that student who made some inroads to doing exceptional well in the classroom. They had opportunity to be with students who were on that same mindset. And subsequently, they got probably a little bit better information and knowledge than some other students did. But at the same time, the students who perhaps didn't have the same skills or ability as they did was not penalized. It's just that those who had a little bit more ambition, I guess I can say that, or working habits, they had an opportunity to develop themselves a little bit more. But part of that too was something I did not like was, as I was subbing over to junior high, how these advanced placement classes or these pull-out program people had an opportunity to do things that other students could have done, but they decided that they'll keep the other students in the classroom. For instance, my daughter went down to the courthouse to watch some things, but the whole school wasn't allowed, just some of those kids in her classroom. I don't know how they determined who would go. I know how my daughter got involved because my wife went up and said, put her in. So that was done, and, it worked out good. Just for note of how well it works, my daughter has a accounting degree, and she's what's the term? Certified public accountant, CPA. So she's completed her education. But I appreciate some of the things that District 111 did to allow her chances to develop, and I think they worked out pretty good. Yeah, district did it too, but home did a lot of it as well. So I would like to see more programs that the students can participate in and try to develop themselves a little bit more. And I do agree with, I like to see the growth of teachers really knowing the student. That would certainly help them direct, advise, and help that student become a better, a more learned person as they move to the next grade level. I'm going to push this too far. My thought of education in the United States of America was from the Department of Education in Washington, D.C., decided on 5 objectives that each year of school should bring to the student, and they go to the higher level, 5th grade maybe, there's 10 of them, and get to the 9th grade, there's another 8. And in the end, those students who did well in those classes got all the objectives that were set out for the education system. But those who didn't do so well, probably in some level at the elementary school and junior high, they got put in classes that was teaching nothing in terms of they had a learning disability, and they called them, and I can't remember the name of what they called those kids back then, and I'm not going to try to remember it. But my point is this. We need to make sure that the objectives that are set for what's the term, Dr. Walters?
Competency-based education.
Yeah. Once we determine those objectives with teachers being involved and parents being involved, hopefully we can make the students move forward, collecting all of the objectives of each grade that they go through. I would like to, I haven't seen that in the past few years. But again, my kid's not in school anymore. But I really would like to see more kids have an opportunity to get all of the objectives set by our Department of Education. And I'm not sure if that's federal or state or all.
Yeah, so what I'm hearing you say is that something that you're proud of is you saw the opening of opportunities in certain spaces. But one thing that you would like to see is the broadening of opportunity for everybody.
Correct.
And that
And
one thing
not judge them so fast and make them take Ritalin.
Yeah, I hear you. That's not always the answer, right? And what I also heard you say is that there's this need for advocacy, right? We can't be so content with what we're getting. We have to know what all is out there and how we can go after to get it. Because if we don't, until the system is changed in a different way, our students, our children, our community won't get it until we advocate for it. So I'm pulling that we need more advocacy until there's a point that we don't need to do it anymore. Right?
I agree with you.
All right.
I would say the thing that makes me most proud of Kankakee as a whole is the thing that caused me to buy a home here and start raising my family here 5 years ago. You know, I grew up in a nearby rural town where Kankakee had a certain reputation as a city. But I would say the past several years, there's a lot of exciting, innovative things going on, and there's a value in being diverse and having lots of opportunities and things for people. And I would say people seek out that diverse things for their children and their families now. So just the exciting things that are going on in the community, you know, with music and art and social services, and there's a lot of really exciting things going on in our community. And that makes me excited for my kids' generation and, you know, those generations to grow up here and make it even better. And so, I'm just really excited about what's going on, and that goes into what's happening in the school district as well. You know, now that I'm here and seeing all the innovative, creative, exciting things that are happening in the schools for the young people here too.
energy here is just different, right? And I think it's this building, it's just brighter. When I was here before this building got remodeled, it was a little dim. And it wasn't fun to come to, but you know, it's so bright, it's so open, different colors, and I think it just changes your mentality when you come in here. And that's what education is about. It's about having fun. It's about that energy. It's about learning something new. It's about doing something different. It's about seeing those open possibilities of being a homeowner here right now and seeing your community and your school and the people around you being a part of that and being invested in it. So thank you for sharing. Dr. May?
Yeah. He just stole my thunder. I was going to point out that this building that we're in right now has occurred over the last 7 years, and I think it's something that everyone should be proud of. One of the things I think in education that we learn is that you really need to have the proper facilities. And this, I've been impressed with the way this building is laid out because I think that it's conducive to learning, and that's a good point. The other thing that I would point out is that what I see from the superintendent and the board is something that I like to call forward thinking. And I say forward thinking because they don't seem to be stuck in the past. And all of that has seemed to be pushing out over the last 7 years. So forward thinking would be something I think that we need to look at.
Forward thinking.
Did I steal your thunder?
No.
Thank you.
Like I've been like dying. It's my turn? So I have two, I'm going to say sons. It's my nephew, might as well be my son. And his mom passed away at the beginning of the pandemic. And I have my biological son, which his father passed away when he was 5 years old. So they share a lot in common. On the surface, they're very different. One's an athlete, and one's I affectionately call a nerd. And I affectionately call him a nerd because he's more like me than my son. So I have one student that's always been in honors classes for the most part by the time he got to the junior high. And then I have one student that doesn't necessarily like school but loves sports. But a lot of people don't realize they're very similar. They're very introverted. One stays on technology to play games. One stays on technology to watch sports. And they like to be in their own room by themselves when they get home. So they're more alike than people think. One's probably more bodily kinesthetic, and he's a nerd in that area, which makes him a good athlete, and one's more visual. The thing that I love about CBE is they both are earning honors credit. Because in CBE, you don't have to be in an honors class to earn honors credit as long as you show competency in that area that's high enough to get an honors credit. So when my son, who's more of a person that wants to be with the kids that are, active and probably get in trouble, when he earned that first honors credit, I almost fell out of my chair. Because it shocked me. In fact, I remember when I was working with Jenny Way and we looked at one of his test scores, I almost fell out of my chair. Because he would rather be in the environment that he feels comfortable. And I don't know that first of all, I don't know if he knew how well he could do. I also don't know that he cared to show how well he could do if it meant he had to move out of the environment he felt comfortable. So I have two very different and similar students in two very different environments succeeding in the environment that they feel the most comfortable. And that's what I'm the most proud of about CBE. It was an unintended consequence that students can be where they're comfortable and still get honors credit.
Man, what a story.
Yeah.
And I don't know if Dr. Walters knows this or not, but our first year, Equal Opportunity School's first year here in Kankakee, Mr. Harris and his assistant principal, I forget her name, English.
Yes, Kelly English.
Miss English. So we noticed that Spanish, it went up to Spanish 4, so it didn't allow a lot of opportunities for students to go into AP Spanish. So what we did for the next school year, we were like, let's just combine Spanish 4 and AP Spanish, put extra resources in there, and that if a student does well enough, they'll get AP Spanish credit, but if they don't do well enough, they'll just do Spanish 4. And let's not penalize them for trying to take a risk, right? Mm-hmm. And we came full circle back to it being a whole school culture, right? It worked out great. A lot of students got AP Spanish, but they also got a seal of biliteracy. That was the other outcome from it, was being able to get that. But it's really interesting to see how now it's an entire school culture, right? And it's something that everybody can take an opportunity to do and still find successes in places where they can find themselves being comfortable. Because we don't want to be where our friends are not, or where people that we don't know or we've never been before, right? So thank you for that. So I got a question. We started late, and it's about to be 7 o'clock soon.
Anyone that's going to watch the Black History program, they should be starting anytime soon. I'm going tomorrow, so if anyone wants to stay and continue, we can continue.
And we'll try to cut it short, too. I'm going to cut out 2 questions, I believe, so that we can still make it over there to see some of it. But just wanted to be cognizant of that. I know some people wanted to go as well. Do we have any comments about the proud one? Okay, awesome.
I had to answer this one because I was so proud, because I was a parent that was really, really disappointed in what I saw when I came to the school. My son was homeschooled, but he's still in this school district. So this is his home. This is his school. And he was playing sports. And I was so upset with the football field, how it looked, the things that we had been to other schools and saw how great it was. Like even in the gym now with the kids up on the screen, it's like it's like a proud mom actually to see the changes that has come about for the whole school, the beautification and everything. So it makes me now as a mom, even though I don't have any kids in school anymore, I am so proud of this district for what they have did for our children. That alone was come up mentally for the children. So thank you, Dr. Walters.
Yeah, so what makes me proud about Kankakee schools is that there's a lot of change, like Dr. Walters referred to the first industrial revolution, that age right there. And although, like, I'm still like pretty old school, but old school is just not getting us there. And I'm proud of our schools because they're saying we're not getting there the old school way. So we're going to have to adapt what we're doing, but at the same time, make sure that our children are achieving things that are actually preparing them for life. And so I thought it was a creative move to like search out those things that would be a good fit for our district and our community. And just for our school to say, you know, it truly does take a village to raise a child. And to see a school district reach out and work with the community the way our schools have, it is mind-blowing, because so many districts just want to be all to all, and they feel like, well, we got all the answers, you know, we can get it done. But our school district has said, no, we can't do this alone. So just developing the relationships, the partnerships within the community, being intentional to be a partner and a friend in the community. It's just amazing. So I'm very proud to see how our schools have adapted to be more integrated in the community's well-being and not just dedicated solely to education. But looking at education, this is much more than just what happens in the classroom. This is what happens to the child's whole life. So that's what makes me proud.
Thank you all for your comments. Those are some really great things. Again, being able to see yourself in your building is something that's super important, right? Representation is everything. Not everything, but it's really, really important when you can see yourself up on screens. I mean, your actual self, and maybe a sibling or somebody else that used to go here is really, really important, right? And then being a bold district that's going to step out and do something different because it's the right thing to do. I've worked with superintendents across the country, and man, I can tell you that tradition is something that people hold on to very, very tight. And because we did it this way, we got to keep doing it this way, and we're going to make y'all suffer through this either way. And you're going to do this or you're not. So big kudos to that. Thank you so much. We got one more.
The question was, what we thought is best has happened at the school.
Something you're proud of that's happening in the district.
Dr. Walters.
Short and simple to the point. You gotta love that. You gotta love Dr. Walters too, right?
Thank you.
So we're going to skip one of the questions. We're going to skip number 3, but we're going to go to number 4 because I think they get to the same things. And this is also a community question as well that you can answer. But we're going to kind of jump into it and get to some of the more difficult aspects of it all, right? What uncomfortable conversations are we not having about our schools and or the community? Why do you think they're not happening? So let's talk about it. And you guys can go online and you can answer that question too. Let me just pull it back up. Let me switch it. But we're going to start right here with Matt.
Yeah.
And then we're going to go that way. And then we're going to come back this way and go that way. We're going to give everybody an opportunity to go first.
I will kind of combine question 3 and 4. That's okay, just because I had an answer for 3. But something I fear, and I think it's an uncomfortable conversation, is that I don't think that there's when we're talking about equity, there's not just one person that gets to decide what's best for a young person. It's not a government agent, and you referenced what's happening across the country in school board meetings and all these things. But it's not just government agencies who get to decide what's best for young people. It's not school boards. It's not even oftentimes their parents that get to decide what's best for them. Like, we do need to talk to the young people about what they need, what they want, and what success means to them and how they're going to get there. So I think that's the uncomfortable conversation that needs to be had, is we need to speak to the young people about what they're needing. And a lot of times we don't give the autonomy or the microphone to the young people to speak about what they need. We tend to think as adults we know better, and we do not.
Yeah, you got to talk to when I talk to schools about this work too, I talk to it about in the space from retail. That's what one of my degrees is in retail merchandising. And if you're not in contact with your main customer in education, your main customer are students. And we hardly ever talk to them about what they want or what they feel that they need, because they know. They know how they feel when they come to school every day and get instruction, right? How different would it be if they were able to inform that on a daily basis or audit it on a yearly basis and have some say in what goes on? So very enlightening. Thank you so much. Dr. Davis.
I think probably the thing that stands out in my mind would be the connection between the school and the parents. Because a lot of time parents and school people are not on the same page at all. And it's always a matter of who you blame. You blame the parents or you blame the students. I blame the parents, I blame the school. And it's an uncomfortable conversation because but it's a necessary conversation because the parents are active participants. They're actually the first teachers to their children. But we oftentimes miss that. We lose the fact that the parents are not as actively involved. So I would fear, I guess the fear would be to lose that. It's something that I think that you got to cherish that and hold on to it, because if you're going to have a means for moving forward, it's got to be working together, the parents and the school. I call it the parent-school connection. So it's a fear and could be something else, I guess, if it's not treated properly.
So I'm gonna probe you a little bit. Why do you think that's the case? Why do you think that relationship isn't there between the parent and the school?
You asked me. Okay, I think the lack of trust. I think parents oftentimes don't trust the school, and it causes some real problems. In the schools, sometimes I'm not trusting the parents. It works both ways, and we don't, we make decisions that we don't involve the parents in the decision. And the only way you're gonna make a decision stick these days, you'd probably ought to have the parents involved in making that decision. I would even go so far as to say, and I wish this was mandatory, that the parents and the teachers would be required to meet before school and kind of come to some kind of understanding, because sometimes teachers don't see the parent. They see when the kid get in trouble, they see the parent. But how about when the kid's doing a great job? So it might be worth talking to them then. And maybe the confidence level would change. It's just a thought. That's the principal in me that's coming out now. I'm thinking about when I was principal. That would have been I tried to talk to my parents, so I tried to get to know them. But I think the teacher is the person that needs to get to know them. You know, that's where it is, really. It's okay for the superintendent to know the parents, but it really should be the teacher that's close to that parent.
Thank you for your thoughts. Insightful. Things that we could possibly do, right? Dr. Walters?
So I think the conversation that we need to have as a community, as a district, is about the isms. The adultism, the racism, the gender biases, all of the things that divide us. So I'll give a perfect example. At the last board meeting, many people felt a racial divide at that meeting, but some people said, no, there wasn't. Well, if a few people felt there was, then why does some people decide that there isn't? And so if I decide I'm uncomfortable in a situation or I feel neglected, how does someone else decide that my feelings aren't valid?
Mm-hmm.
And so I really feel like people need to be able to accept how individual people feel and not say, you're wrong, that's not what it is, there's something wrong with you. Like, so if I feel something, then my feelings are valid even when you don't experience it. And so I think that's something that has to be discussed, is that it's not a few people that get to decide what happened in an environment. Everybody has their different experience, their perception, and that we need to accept that someone else may feel differently than someone else in the same situation.
That's right.
Church.
That's true.
Thank you so much. Art?
You know, I was going to say that, didn't
I didn't, but I appreciate it. You always say things, and I'm like, thank you.
Regarding fears, probably one of my worst fears is we have started a curriculum or a program in our school district, and if we change superintendents, that the new superintendent come in with a new idea and wants to do it his or her way, and the result of it is we haven't given the program that we have adopted ourselves to all the time it needs to flourish and develop and become a very wonderful system to work in. With uncomfortable conversation, yes, I'm with isms, because as I come to events in this entire community, not just school district, but the last school board meeting, it was rather embarrassing that two very important elements of the child's learning was battling with each other. I wouldn't say they was battling with each other, but they were disagreeing on, and I was very disappointed that the element called teachers, and in particular the union, had such a strong negative comment about the system without actually telling me the actual truth about what was going on. I've since talked to other people, and teachers are responsible for a lot of stuff, and they are the most important part of the teaching system. I mean, they're the most important part of what a child gets. But if the student and the teacher and the administration are not working together, we'll fail. And we'll fail very, very, for a long time. So I hope that the next superintendent comes in and just continue the program as is. Man, there's going to be some adjustments, I understand that. But I'm very fearful that the change is going to take too long. If the new person comes in, it's going to be too long trying to get everything back on track again. Because you can't be changing trains in the middle of the ride. You know, track only holds one at a time. So let's work on teachers and administration working this out, keeping it going for a couple more years, and let us see opportunity for it to work. And quit being so angry towards each other.
Yeah, thank you for that. So what I'm hearing you say as well, not as well, but what I'm hearing you say, paraphrasing, is that we need to work on our relationships with each other.
Absolutely.
And I know within our community, and I would say the black community in particular, it's contentious sometimes. But we have to find that love for each other to be able to work together, because we need each other at the end of the day. our relationships are very, very important. Not only amongst ourselves, but with everybody else, too. We can't take sides. We can take sides, but what difference is that going to make at the end of the day? How are we going to really accomplish something? The other thing that I heard you say was that one of the fears is what's going to happen to the road that we're already going down right now. And what I would ask you all to do, or what I would say to you all too, is that we can't live on hopes and prayers. We cannot live on hopes and prayers. But we can live on action. What can we do to ensure? Because there are things that we can do to ensure that when Dr. Walters leaves, this thing keeps going on. Whether that's hiring the person that's going to keep this thing going on and making sure that's their thing, or putting measures in place that ensures that that's going to happen. So let's think creatively, and let's think strategically around what those things might be. All right?
Well, the change comes about either you fall in line with it, or you create havoc trying to install something, and the person that gets the worst treatment out of it is the students. If we change the system and when Dr. Walters leaves, now we got to start all over again. And we don't need restarts. We need to have continuation.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Mr. Cortez?
Well, I agree with everyone. I can speak for the Hispanic Latino community, and we have a long story of lack of participation. And I think that's what it has to be improved in both sides. Like, there has to be accountability for the parents too. And there has to be also education and tools for them. Because many of them are sixth grade level education. So past that, they cannot help the kids to do their homework. So they just let it go. So I think tools for them are important too.
What I'm hearing you say is that we got to show up. And we got to get our community to show up on a consistent basis. Because that's what's going to sustain change at the end of the day, right? And that's what's going to make up for some of the deficiencies or voids that our parents may have and the fear of showing up, right?
It has to be mandatory.
Yes, yes. Thank you, sir. So we can take two from the crowd, and we're going to cut out another question, but we're going to make it happen. Okay.
What I feel that the conversation that we need to have is that I want to say two things. One is the way I learn may be different from the way that you learn, and that's okay. And the way I learn should not be wrong, or the way I feel should not be wrong just because it's different from the way that you feel things should go. Secondly is that as educators, we are advocates for children. That should be our number one goal. And if we're in a situation where we find a student does not have an advocate, it's up to the school, it's up to us to be advocates for those children. And we have to do what's in the best interest of children, and we have to be advocates for our students, and we're here to serve students, not adults.
So true. We got to be student-focused, student-first, right? We got one over here, and we need some participation over there, too. We had one, but we had like 50 over here. So we got to get some that side of the room.
Yes, so I want to respond to Dr. Davis' concern about the relationship between the teachers and the parents. And I remember earlier in your presentation, you talked about speak from your experience, right? And so as the director of a mentoring program for a long time, when I first came into the program, the strongest disconnect was, like, I'll never forget, we had a program where we invited all of the parents out, with parents, grandparents, and I remember the mentors, some of them crying because we had all this food catered in, and one parent, a grandparent, showed up, and the kids were sad. It was just a really, really sad night. And so I said, well, what do we do about this? So from that day, when we started the next year, the move was, you as a mentor, each day you're going to walk your child, when the parent comes to pick the child up, and I know this is not practical in a school setting, but it's applicable. I would have the mentor go and greet the parent. Hi, I'm Tina. Enjoyed having your child today. You're doing a good job. Keep up the good work. And just what's one good thing you can celebrate that you know that parent contributed to that child's life? No matter where you feel like the child is, it's one good thing about that child that you can celebrate the parent. That was at the beginning of that school year. When we got to Thanksgiving and invited those parents out, the place was full.
Amen.
And that was just by a simple gesture to connect with the parent. You don't need to argue with them. You don't need to call, and especially your child messed up today. I just want to let you know your child has 8 missing assignments. If that's the only connection that teachers are having with the parents, or that's the only reason they see the call parents, then you're not going to have a good relationship with parents. And how powerful of a tool would it be if a teacher took the time out to just send a text? Hey, I just want to let you know your son was missing an assignment, but he got it done today. Good job. You must be doing something right. And how powerful of a tool would it be to get those same parents? Hey, you know me because I've been texting you about your child. Are you coming to the board meeting tonight? We're going to be discussing some very important things. And so if from the leadership it was understood how important it is to push those type of relationships with simple, consistent gestures, how impactful that would be on our community overall. You would get the community involved in voting the right people onto the board and getting the right person to have continuation for what we've already started. And so I just think that's so important. It's so important. So I just thank you for bringing that up, Dr. Davis.
It starts those little starts, right? That lead into big, big things. And that's, my whole emphasis around like ripples to waves. They can be infectious at the end of the day, and they can help to build a change. Like you said, that little thing at Thanksgiving changed it, right? And it probably changed the relationship within the community too, because you start carrying that practice everywhere you go. So how can we start doing some of those things that may seem really simple and seem insignificant, but are really important, especially in education sometimes where we always harp on the negative with our parents? How can we bring some light and levity to the things that they hear or see every day about their students, and maybe just in their life? Because as a new parent here, you get life beats you down sometimes, then you get beat down by what your kid is doing, then it's just the snowball effect, and it's not good. How can we bring some more of that greatness to each other's life? Ms. Will?
And I think we could also reverse that flow, because parents can report to teachers when their students have something positive to say about school. My granddaughter, Mahari, had learned to divide fractions a couple weeks ago, and she was very good at it. She got onto it right away. She was really proud of herself. And she came in the door, and she says, I like dividing fractions. And so I said, let me make a video, and I want you to say it again. And I made a video, and I sent it to her principal, because I wanted her principal to know that she was enjoying school and that she had learned something today, and she was really proud of herself. So we can flow that back and forth, and it becomes that infinity circle that feeds upon itself.
That brings me to highlighting our students' brilliance, right? And changing that narrative that may be in the community or in the world that our children don't like doing this type of thing, or our children do bad things, or do things that we don't like to see them do. We can highlight them ourselves and go counter narrative to what's already out there, right? And that changes not only their perception of themselves, but maybe other students' perceptions of what's cool, because that's kind of the issue sometimes too at school, right? Like, I don't want to do it because it's not cool. I would rather do something different or something else. But if we can make that image and change that perception of it all, then that could make a broader change. Okay, so we're gonna jump to the last one here. We're gonna get you guys out of here. It's the last one. It's also a community question, and it kind of feeds into what the one before this was supposed to be about. But I want you guys to close your eyes, and I want you to dream for a little bit about the future of what Kankakee could be. And I want you to ask yourself, if you could change one thing, not change, if you could instill one thing that would positively impact education or the community within the next 5 years, what's that one thing that you would instill into this community? So again, you can go on to Medi.com, and the code is the same. It might just change for you in your phone. You don't have to keep logging it in. But we would like to capture that one thing that everybody would like to see. And then we'll ask our panelists too, but this time we're going to start with Dr. Davis because he didn't get to go first yet.
I think I said the one thing I thought at the very beginning, but I just wanted to add one thing when I said that I felt like to making it mandatory for the parents and the teachers to meet early. But as I was listening to a couple of the comments about what to do, I think I was a superintendent for 12 years, and one of the things that I know for sure is that before you select the superintendent, the board's going to have the opportunity to say what they want. And the board representative of the community. So if the board goes, if this Board of Education, and I can say this because I'm not a superintendent here, if the Board of Education decide to have a person of a particular category, then that's what you get. So whomever's doing the search, I think they have to be told that we have these programs going. We would like to get a person who feels this way about it. And then when you feel like when it goes out and come back, if they get somebody send back an application and say, well, I'm going to do it my way, that person would just be out the door. It's that simple. The board is then going to be in total control of the process.
Thank you for that. Thank you
Okay.
so much. We're going to go to Dr. Walters.
So I do talk about this is the fourth industrial age, and we need to innovate, and then we need to not change what public school was designed for. The public school was designed to prepare students for the citizenship that existed at that time. We need to stick with that design, but understand that it's different. That's the first thing. But there is something that I did like about Kankakee that I think we need to bring back. So I grew up on the north side on Dearborn. If I went on to Chicago, and I wasn't supposed to, by the time I got back to Dearborn, my mother knew I'd been on Chicago. So we need to bring back that community responsibility for the children as a whole, and that we all are responsible for all of our children, and that we work together to support our children. And I do know that there are some parents that feel that no one else should talk to their children, it should only be them. But I think that if we brought back that feeling that I had when I grew up, where we're all responsible for our children as adults, and that we all care about them and want the best for them, even though I didn't necessarily feel like that when I get in trouble by the time I got home. But when I look back on it, that was a better way to live and grow up, where we all shared the responsibility of our children than for, people to say, I have mine and your children have to get yours. So that community feel that we used to have, that is one thing that I guess we could change because it's not there now, but that is something that used to exist in Kankakee that I wish we could go back to, but also keep the fact that the world has changed and we're developing our children for a different world in terms of careers, but in terms of community, we could go back to that open community where we support each other.
Righteous. That could be done during technology too. So we got Instagram, we got Twitter. Easy to find out where they are now. So let's jump in on it, keep our people safe. Mr. Cortez?
Well, again, I'm going to speak for the Hispanic Latino community. And I also think that getting the parents and school on the same side, working together in excitement, not using I have to do it mode, I think that will make a whole of a difference.
Bring the excitement back. We got to have it ourselves first though, right? We got to be excited about it.
It's just that I think the parents feel isolated, and the more the problems arise, the more isolated they are.
Mm-hmm.
And then they don't know how to fix it, they don't know how to communicate, they just feel like somebody else has to do it.
Yes. Thank you for that. Mr. Hayes?
Okay. Heading Hess, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, like, on a national level even, there's a lot we can disagree about right now. I think the education system is one area where there's one thing we can all agree on, and that is that the student succeeds. Like, that's everyone's goal, or it should be everyone's goal. And so I just think about like the story Mr. Clark just shared, or I'm thinking about like, I've been in IEP meetings where they start with, you're going to hear a lot of criticism or negative things, might seem negative things. So we're going to start with only some positive things about you. Like just bringing the focus back to young people, and that's one thing that we can all agree on. So if I could instill something in the community, it would be that focus that we can all agree on. This is our main goal: is that the student succeeds.
Student success. Thank you, sir. Mr. Art, last one.
That's a difficult question for me, because one of the things that I find that really brings a community together is athletics. And we've been doing that here in Kankakee for the last couple of years very, very well. And I'd like to see that kind of community action continue, and continue to develop these students and athletes to the level where they can represent themselves very well, the school very well, and ultimately the state of Illinois and Kankakee itself, because we have some good athletes in this community, and needless to say, I'm a former athlete, and I know how important it has always been to have winners. And the one thing that can bring about winners is the idea that the athletic teams are winning, and then the community feels a part of that. So, but I think one thing could possibly positive impact would be communication, a ton of it. Let the district send. We don't get any mail from District 111 because we don't have any students in the school district. But I think I need a little bit more information on what's going to happen and that kind of stuff, maybe to my address rather than picking it up from people I talk to. It's got athletics, big thing.
Okay. And then specific information to you, not word of mouth.
Right.
You need the facts.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay.
Communicate with me, yeah, it'll make a difference, not just me, but any other people in the community. If they're touched by the school district, they perhaps will help out a little bit more.
Yes. Thank you.
Especially businesses and, what was the other group? Student community, where's the one that says Business in 5?
Yeah, I think it was.
Businesses.
Yep.
You know what it is.
Thank you, sir. So I know we've taken way more than the time than we were supposed to take today, and we're going to wrap this up. But this is, like I said before, this is only the beginning. We wanted to enter into this space today to kind of get the ball rolling. Board member Wells came up with this idea. Ms. Wells came up with this idea and was like, we need to start the conversation now. So this is that now. This is that urgency. And we want to see all of you here the next time that we have this. But I have a challenge to you all, too, is that next time you come, bring somebody else. Each one, bring one. That's the thing that I was brought up with, especially when it was something very, very important that we needed to take on. I'm going to leave you with a parting thought. I'm a big person around quotes and stories that mean something. And this one just came to me right now. I didn't have anything this whole time. But when we started to talk about stuff, I thought about the story of everybody, somebody, anybody, and nobody. Does anybody know it? Mm-hmm. Some of us?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna read it. It's really quick. But this is the story about 4 people named everybody, somebody, anybody, and nobody. There was an important job to be done. And everybody was sure that somebody would do it. Anybody could have done it, but nobody did it. Somebody got angry about that because it was everybody's job. Everybody thought anybody could do it, but nobody realized that everybody wouldn't do it. It ended up that everybody blamed somebody when nobody did what anybody could do. So I want us to leave here with that message that let's be that somebody that goes out and does what we need to do that anybody could do. I thank you for your time here today. Let's give our panelists an applause. and this is the first of many. Thank you. Let's see these children.
Thank you.
It's turned out really well.
Here. Articles, just to begin explaining CBE better. If anyone would like to take one. I didn't bring a